Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Beta Year program, and I am your host Tariq. Today we'll explore and analyze the changing dynamics in the Middle East, new developments or progress on Palestine cause in the context of Middle East changing relationships, as well as role of Qatar to organize FIFA World Cup and criticism or appreciations from world leaders and Pakistan's relationship with the Middle East and changing dynamics, building image in the global context. So today, to discuss all these scenarios, Ms. Arhama Siddiqa has joined us from Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad. You are research fellow, Middle East and North Africa at ISSI. Arhama, thank you so much for joining or appearing in the Beta Year program, and you are most welcome.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Arhama, how do you rank FIFA 2022 for Middle East, and despite all the criticism, do we expect some more events of this magnitude taking place in the region? How would you analyze?
So the FIFA Cup 2022 is a big event for the Middle East as a whole and Qatar in particular. So it's the first time the World Cup is being hosted by an Arab country, a Muslim country, and it's the first time that the World Cup, I believe it's the first time in recent history that the World Cup is being hosted only in one city. Normally, at least 2 or 3 countries collectively host the World Cup. For instance, in 2026, now we'll see the World Cup being hosted by the US, Mexico, and Canada. And as far as the second part of your question goes, yes, sports is a very incremental part of the visions of all of these Gulf countries. For example, Qatar Vision 2030, it's a promotion of sports within these national plans is a very integral part of for all of these Gulf countries. So in that respect, yes, we can be sure to see more games in the future. And incidentally, yesterday, I think less than 24 hours ago, India dropped its bid to the 2027 Asia Football Cup. So Saudi Arabia is now going to be bidding for that, and the bidding will take place, I believe, in Bahrain in February next year. So yes, we can expect to see more games of this level in the future.
Arhama, a number of world leaders attended the opening ceremony, and notably we saw Saudi Crown Prince rubbing shoulders with the Emir of Qatar. The Turk president was also there. Do you think this is a turning point in the history of the region?
So one thing about FIFA, one positive thing for the Muslim world and the Arab world which has come out of FIFA is a united stance against all the criticisms that have been coming in from all quarters of the world, that why is the World Cup being held in Qatar because of human rights abuses and accusations of the sort. Number one, Qatar has made a lot of improvements since its bid in 2010, and all the Gulf countries and all the Arab countries have supported Qatar staunchly. We also saw in the opening ceremony of the World Cup, we saw Mohammed bin Salman and President Erdogan also come in there. We saw the Jordan Crown Prince, also come for the opening ceremony. And even though the president of the UAE, he could not attend the ceremony, the Prince of Dubai, he did attend the ceremony. And just, I think, 2 days ago, recently, the president of Abu Dhabi, of UAE, sorry, he also attended one of the FIFA games in Qatar. So yes, as a whole, I think it's only recent history that we've seen the blockading countries. The Qatar blockading crisis in the GCC in 2017, which was resolved in 2021 in January. So the appearance of all these leaders in the FIFA opening ceremony is a sign that yes, things within the Gulf have stamped out. Also, with regards to the Turkish president's appearance in the FIFA World Cup, that is also a positive sign because after the Khashoggi incident in 2018, there have been a number of rifts between Turkey and Saudi Arabia. To, so to see both leaders on the same platform and standing for a united cause, united Middle East cause, united Muslim cause, supporting Qatar in the FIFA for the FIFA World Cup, it does show a positive image overall where the Middle East is concerned.
Arhama, could you summarize what is happening in the Middle East region presently?
Middle East region, there are a lot of number of events taking place in Middle East region. So I will only point to two, three events which directly or indirectly have an effect on Pakistan. So first of all, I'll start with the oldest issue of the Middle East, which is the Palestinian cause. Uh, in the Middle East, I think that almost everyone has seen the video of the uh, Israeli shooting the Palestinian point blank. So the situation in Palestine is pretty detrimental as far as Palestinian rights are concerned. Then the second outlook of the Middle East, which I would like to point to, is that all the Middle East countries, not so much the Gulf countries, but if you look at the wider Middle East, if you look at Lebanon, Syria, Jordan even, they are undergoing through a financial crisis at the moment. Syria is also one country. And this has been exacerbated by the COVID pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war in terms of food security, especially for these countries. Because, for example, Egypt, before the Russia-Ukraine standoff started in February, Egypt imported almost all of its 90% of its grain from Ukraine and Russia. So these countries have had the war in Ukraine has had a significant impact on the food security issues in these countries. And as we know, that the Gulf countries are very food insecure in the sense that they import almost 80% of their food supplies. So they were hit really particularly hard by the Russia-Ukraine standoff. The third thing I would like to point to is the China-US competition in the Middle East. Yes, the China-US competition is all over the world, but in the Middle East, it is growing at an alarming rate, I would say. The Chinese president is set to attend the Arab-China summit, which is going to, I believe, going to take place in Saudi Arabia. If not later this year, it will take place next year, early next year. So we have the US-China competition. We see the Middle East countries, especially the Gulf countries, they have been trying to balance their relations with both China and the US. Because economically, obviously, China does, relations with China do help the Middle East countries, the GCC countries in particular, but also the prime security provider of the Middle East to this day remains the US. So, and the COVID pandemic has had a significant impact. It has had a significant impact in all the countries in the world. But also in terms of the fact that all of these Gulf countries have their own visions. So Saudi Arabia has Vision 2030, Qatar has Vision 2030, Bahrain 2035, Oman 2040, and so on. So COVID pandemic has slowed down projects in these in the pursuance of these visions. So in that sense, that has also been that has also been a key focus of the Middle East countries to try to get on track where their national visions are concerned.
Can you explain in detail the Saudi and Iranian rivalry, how it has played an important role in shaping the region? Can we expect a thaw between two states, or will they continue the conflict through proxies? How would you analyze this?
So the Saudi-Iran rivalry, what I believe is that what started off as a sectarian conflict between Shias and Sunnis is now primarily based on economic terms. So especially after the COVID pandemic, these countries have been in a race to try and, have sustainable economic linkages with other countries. And also a war does not serve anyone's economic purpose. So for instance, the war in Yemen, which is essentially a war between Saudi Arabia's coalition and the Iranian proxy, the Houthi militia, it has had a toll on the economies of Saudi Arabia and UAE even. Now UAE pulled out of the Yemen war in 2020. And Saudi Arabia since 2020 especially has been trying to pull out of the war as well because it is not serving its purpose. Ulta, it is affecting the implementation of the faster implementation of Vision 2030. So, and there have been a round of talks, 5 or 6 round of talks between Iran and Saudi Arabia, facilitated first by Iraq and Jordan. So while we can expect a slight thaw in relations, both sides are still not ready to wholeheartedly compromise as of now. But Pakistan has been supporting a thaw in relations since I think it's been 20 odd years, and Pakistan will continue to do that. And I think as a whole, the region would want a softening in the rivalry or competition between these two countries, because even though these two countries are suffering because of the rivalry, the whole region collectively is also suffering, especially Yemen. Yemen is suffering because of that. So, and Iraq has been a tussle, a bone of contention, a tussle between Saudi Arabia and Iran for long. So I think they would breathe a sigh of relief if these two countries do come to the talking table and wholeheartedly reach a compromise, do not engage further in
Arhama,
this
as you
rivalry.
know, Palestine extremely has been extremely close to the Muslim world, and then the Abraham Accords happened. What has changed after these accords? As you know, except Qatar, all other Gulf states are developing strong relationship with Israel. And how do you see this Palestine cause, a Palestine development in this context?
So, the Abraham Accords, which took place in 2020, facilitated by the US, they had two components. They had an economic component and as well. Based on the economic component, and also I should mention that the Abraham Accords, one of the clauses was that there would be a resolution towards the Palestinian issue as well. But so far, we have not seen a resolution in that direction. In fact, every year around Nakba time, which is, I believe, in May, we see an upsurge, a rise in the attacks on Palestinians. But on the economic front, the countries which have signed the Abraham Accords, for example, the UAE and Bahrain, have benefited enormously when it comes to the signing of the Abraham Accords. We see the R2U2 alliance between Israel, India, UAE, and the US in recent times. And Bahrain has been gaining a lot economically from Israel as well. And so I believe that Palestine issue is sort of in the cold storage, but on a positive note, I would say that if there is, and everyone is saying this, a lot of people are saying this, not everyone, but if there is one real winner in the FIFA World Cup, it is Palestine, because what FIFA has done is that it has reinvigorated Arab stance, Muslim stance, especially for the Palestinian issue. We have seen a lot of Arabs wearing armbands supporting Palestinians. We have seen a lot of Palestinian flags in the crowds as well. So even though Abraham Accords has economically only benefited the countries which are a part of Abraham Accords, which have signed the agreement with Israel, and not much has been done towards the resolution of Palestine, so much so that even I believe that that was it for the Palestinian cause. But FIFA has actually renegotiated that, so there is a slight positive momentum where we see that. Otherwise, Abraham Accords has done nothing at all for the issue itself. And as I mentioned, so with respect to these relations, like I mentioned previously, these countries, they have their own visions. And especially after the COVID pandemic, these countries would want a faster implementation of their visions, a faster successful implementation of their visions. Now, Israel offers, offers a lot of host of avenues for them in terms of food security, in terms of IT, in terms of even artificial intelligence. And so it's very attractive for these countries. So Abraham Accords for them was a way to sort of, say to the world that yes, we do have Palestinian issue in mind as well, but it would also open a gateway for them to openly deal with Israel in these terms. The Palestinian issue on the backdrop of Abraham Accords, as I mentioned, the resolution has not been pursued. None of these countries have really, vocally said anything about the resolution of the Palestinian issue in terms of the Abraham Accords. But FIFA and the World Cup, we have seen some, pursuance of the cause itself. But otherwise, on the Palestinian issue front, so far, as far as the Gulf countries have gone, there has been stony silence, except in the past 2 weeks since FIFA started.
As you know, Pakistan has a number of diaspora settled in the Middle East. So why has our diaspora failed to promote the brand images of Pakistan in the Gulf? And do you see any difference of developing relationship with the Middle East between the current government and the previous government? How do you analyze?
So Pakistan's 86% of Pakistan's secondary income it is based on remittances. Now, since the 60% of this 86% is from the Gulf countries, which is primarily Saudi Arabia, then the UAE, and then you could say Qatar. So remittance is a very important sector for Pakistan in terms of foreign investment and foreign income. But as honestly, if you look at and forget my crudeness in this, Pakistan's diaspora, Pakistan's workforce at the moment is very substandard as compared to the other Asian states who have the workers in the Gulf as well. So you look at Bangladesh, you look at Sri Lanka, you look at India, you look at Nepal. What these countries have done is that they have trained their workers, or they have at least started training their workers in line with the visions of these countries. And what this does is that it opens up avenues for these workers from these countries as well. Pakistan so far has not done its research, and Pakistan has not invested its workforce in workforce training in line with these visions. Now, for example, for Pakistan, Vision 2040 Oman offers a host of opportunities because Oman is our closest Arab neighbor, and we have not, tapped into that niche as yet. So what Pakistan needs to do is that it needs to train its workers especially in terms of engineering, in terms of construction, in terms of sports, even sports promotion. The FIFA football for, I think it's not only this time, but in the previous two World Cups as well. It came from Pakistan, right? So why can't we, send out our people to train these Arab countries in terms of sports promotion? We have the industry. We can help them in that regard. So what we need to do is that we need to train our workforce, support our workforce, and also we need to have a labor attaché in the Gulf countries, in the embassies in the Gulf countries, who specifically deals with monitoring worker rights and worker trainings as well. A number of countries have done that already, and Pakistan should do that as well to make our workforce relatively more competitive as compared to other Asian nations. Because again, as I mentioned, remittance is a very important part of our secondary foreign income, and we should not forego the opportunity at hand. So here I would say that the previous government, it did work a lot in terms of developing relations with the Middle East countries. In the national security NSP document, we have national security policy, which was launched in 21. We made a pivot from geopolitics to geoeconomics. So we did not discard geopolitics completely, but with a renewed focus on geoeconomics. In that document, Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Iran have been specifically mentioned in that document, increasing economic relations with these countries, which means that, and also in terms of religious tourism with Iraq, Syria, Iran, especially in Saudi Arabia, the previous government made a lot of effort. And the same is the case with this government, the BDM government. They have been making a lot of efforts as well. And the thing is that I believe it's on a personal note that the Gulf countries are more comfortable, if that's the term, with the new government as opposed to the previous government, even though the previous government made a lot of effort. But because the Gulf countries are more comfortable with them, we can expect to see a greater upward trend in Middle East Pakistan relations if this government also continues. But as far as differences between the two are concerned, no, I believe that the previous government made a lot of effort, and building on that, the new government is also making a lot of efforts, particularly in regard to the Middle East and the Gulf countries in particular.
Arhama, thank you so much for sharing your valuable thoughts and analysis on the changing dynamics of the Middle East, and especially the role of Qatar in organizing the FIFA World Cup, and especially the Saudi and Iranian rivalry and relationship and changing dynamics in the region, and Pakistan's role in the development of relationship with the Middle East. Again, thank you so much for appearing in the Beta Year program.